Hello, everyone joining. Welcome. We will get going here in a couple minutes, just giving everyone time to log in. Thank you for joining us. Okay, we will just give it another minute here. It looks like most attendees are in, but just one more minute and we'll get started. Okay, let's see. Looks like we're holding steady at our number, so I will get going. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Mike McKee. I am the Director of Admissions here at the Dunn School. We're very excited to have you all joining us tonight. Many of you on the call we have met prior, either through another virtual event or an on-campus personal tour. We have many families who this is your first time hearing from us on this panel. So welcome. And we also have some consultants, I believe, joining us. Whichever category you fall into, we're excited that you're joining us. So we have a wonderful virtual night planned for you, where you get to meet and hear from some of our internal team, as well as a perspective of one of our students and also a current parent. I'd love to introduce you to them shortly, but first, a few housekeeping items. We'll try to keep to an hour tonight, but understand that we can easily dedicate a whole night to some of the topics that we're going to be touching on. Things like whole student education, our sports program, college counseling, learning strategies, etc. We'll do our best to cover these topics, but feel free to contact myself or any member of the admissions team for a deeper dive on anything you hear tonight. During tonight's presentation, you will hear from panel members, but I also encourage you to submit any questions using the Q&A function located on the bottom of your screen. We'll be able to answer some of those. If it's a short written response, we'll do that. Otherwise, we are going to have a Q&A portion at the end of tonight, and we will answer your questions at that time. With that said, let's get started with a brief introduction to Dunn School. Dunn School was founded in 1957 by Tony Dunn with the original mission statement that still holds true today. At that time, Tony said that Dunn School's mission was to educate the whole child to their potential. It says a lot of other things, but at the essence and the core, that is the mission. And at Dunn, we feel like this has never been more important than now, given COVID, given all the social emotional pressures that are put on our children. So what does this idea of whole student education mean at Dunn? For us, it means we've taken a step back or forward and said to ourselves, if all a school is doing is focusing on the academic side of this experience, we're essentially missing all the important areas of growth that we want to see in our students during this very formative time. So Dunn School has a set of core values that it uses as its lens to make all of our curriculum decisions. And by curriculum, I mean everything that we do as a school. Those core values are emotional wellness, physical readiness, intellectual growth, social responsibility, and moral courage. And we measure ourselves as a school and our students through these core values. So with that brief introduction, I thought I'd like to show you a video that we just completed post-production on. It was directed and produced by a Dunn alum. His name is Justin Ching. Justin's an incredible filmmaker. He's a recipient of, recent recipient of Forbes 30 Under 30 Award. He's a board member of the school. This video is fun, upbeat. It's celebrating our return to school this fall. So let me just try and share my screen here for a minute and show it to you.
Where is everyone?
We will get this assembly started.
100% improvement. Houses in Congress.
Where is everyone?
What the blazes are you doing here? Have you no heard? We're back!
The world has learned a lot this year. That school is more than a classroom. That phones are not the same as friends. And that to learn is to live.
Audie?
Penelope? Penelope?
Audie!
Penelope!
But none of this is new to Dunn School. In fact, for over 60 years, we've been fostering whole student education, and we've got the proof that it works.
Now you better go! Rebuild all the ruins. Face the trust, go win the day despite all the losing.
So while the rest of the world plays catch-up, we're moving forward.
On we sweep, touching the line. Our only goal will be the Western Shore.
Life is our classroom. Let it be yours at Dunn School.
All right. Well, wasn't that fun? If you saw a tall, lanky guy in a green shirt awkwardly dancing, I have to admit that was me. I meant to warn you in case you wanted to turn away. But really, what better way to start the evening than with a little Led Zeppelin? So from here, I thought I'd like to introduce you to our esteemed panel members. Panel members, I'd ask you to maybe introduce yourself, your role at the school or your relation to the school, where you're from, how long you've been here or been a student or a parent here, and anything else you would like to share with the families on the call. Jean Vachon, I guess I will start with you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Hi, I'm Jean Vachon. I am the associate head of school. This is my 19th year at Dunn. Been in just about every role imaginable. Always will be an English teacher in my heart, but love my work in administration. My wife is the director of activities, and my son is a current freshman. Has spent 3 years at Dunn Middle School and is now in the 9th grade, which is a little mind-boggling, but so cool. Live on campus, and I'm a boarding school person, have been almost all my life, and just really believe in this and what we're doing. I'll talk to you a little bit about academics, but for right now, that's me.
Thank you, Jean. And next, I would like to introduce Tim Weir.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. As Mike said, my name is Tim Weir. I'm the athletic director here at Dunn. I also serve as our alumni coordinator. My wife, Christina Weir, works here in the Learning Strategies Department. We've been at Dunn for 3 years. We've been probably in education close to 25 or 30 years in independent school education. We live here on campus at the Knowles dorm, where we're the dorm heads, 9th and 10th grade boys dorm. Have a son in the 8th grade down at Dunn Middle School, TJ, and we have 2 older boys who are seniors in college. So that's a unique experience during COVID to have them finish their junior and now be in their senior year. So if you want tips on that, you can email me later. But we've been here for 3 years. We're big fans of the school. We really believe in whole child education, and I will kind of explain how we do that through our athletic program in a few moments.
Thank you, Tim. Next, I will move to current 11th grade student hailing from San Francisco, Maddie Bailey.
Hi, everybody. I'm Maddie. I'm a current junior. I'm a boarding student. I'm originally from San Francisco. I'm on student government. I'm an RA in the girls' dorm Loy. I'm the co-chair for Spirit Committee and VP for Youth for Direct Relief Club. I also play volleyball, basketball, and throw shot put on the track and field team. I'm also a member of the Learning Strategies program, which has been extremely formative and helpful in my academics. It's also one of the many reasons I was attracted to Dunn and also love Dunn. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Maddie. And next up, we have current parent of a boarding student, a spouse to an alum. Kimberly, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Kimberly. I am from San Francisco as well, and we have 4 children. Our 2 boys are at Dunn. I have a sophomore and a senior, and my husband also went to Dunn, and we all live to tell. Made him a great person. We've had a fantastic experience at Dunn. It was just the best fit for both our boys. They're thriving. Colin is a senior, and Paul with Tim, Mr. Weir, fabulous tutelage. Both our boys are in the LS program, which we think is fantastic. And I'll probably talk more about that later.
Thank you, Kimberly. And last but certainly not least, we have Liz Ting. Liz, if you would mind introducing yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Liz Ting. I'm the Director of College Counseling. This is my 4th year at Dunn. My 14th year in the San Ynez Valley. I live off campus with my husband and my 2 daughters. Harper is in 7th grade. I was going to say 6th, which 7th grade at DMS. And then Quincy is in 3rd grade at another independent elementary school here in the Valley. Prior to coming to Dunn, I spent the bulk of my career in corporate America. So I bring that experience to me in this role in college counseling. And I'm looking forward to talking to you more about how I work with our students.
Great, thank you, Liz. So what I'd like to do is maybe ask all of our panelists a couple questions here for you to respond to. And then again, anyone in attendance, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section and we will direct them to the appropriate person too. So Jean, I'm going to start with you. I talked a little bit about Dunn School's philosophy around whole student education in my opening. Can you just share maybe a little bit about Dunn's academic program and how whole student education is woven through our curriculum?
Sure. So in his opening, Mike mentioned the core values, and the core values really, when we talk about what is a whole student and what do we, when we look at, who do we want to be sending across our graduation stage and out into the world, we really look at those 5 core values as the framework for what a whole student is, what a whole person is. I don't want to say that the intellectual growth one is at the core, because they are all part of our core. But we had an interesting experience a few years ago where we used to, instead of intellectual growth, we used to call that core value academic excellence. And while, of course, any academic institution would like to achieve academic excellence, we realized that the idea of academic excellence really focuses on a product and not a process. And whole student education really is about the process. It's about the journey. It's about being both articulate and intentional about how we get to where we're going. And so the shift from the label academic excellence to intellectual growth really seemed important to us, because it allowed us to have this core value that's not defining an endpoint, but a process and a way of life and a way of living. To be a little more specific about it, some of the ways in which the whole student is addressed especially through our academic program. I'll just give you a couple of examples in probably the last 10 years as we've made some shifts. One of them was to move away from a sequential, sort of a compartmentalized approach, and we replaced that with an integrated approach. Really understanding that the wholeness of mathematics, and then allowing mathematics to interrelate with other disciplines, really started to blur some of those predefined lines of a more traditional curriculum. And blurring those lines really also is a big part of what teaching the whole student is about. We know that no one is just an English student or just a math student or just a student of science at any moment. They are students, they're whole people, and they all come together. Similarly, over the years, we have combined our math and science into a single STEM department. We combined our history and English into a single humanities department. And as we move forward, we are continuing to look at those really interesting areas in between the defined areas of education. You'll often hear people talk about silos in a curriculum, and we're really trying hard to. The walls are still there, but trying to make them at least see-through and then trying to make them vanish as we go. Another thing we did was we expanded our graduation requirements a few years ago. Until a couple of years ago, the graduation requirements referred only to academic courses. They matched the UC eligibility requirements, but we didn't articulate that we also wanted our graduates to participate in our outdoor education program. We didn't articulate that we also wanted our graduates to have experience with leadership, and so we brought together all of the other programs of the school and made many of them graduation requirements in different ways. The last thing, and I'm more than happy to take more questions about this as we go, past, present, or future. I think we really see that the future of education is continuing to find those areas in between, to find the work that is going to be most important in the evolving world that our students are going to be moving into. So as you can probably tell, I could keep talking about this for a very long time, but I'm going to stop, but happy to answer more questions later as we go.
Gene, thank you very much. I'm going to transition over to Tim Weir, our athletic director. So Tim, Dunn School sports programs have been making quite a name for themselves recently. Part of that's attributed to phenomenal admissions work. I'm just kidding. Part of that's attributed to our coaches and our athletes. I know your passion for building character through sports. Can you share a little bit about our sports programs, our offerings, and maybe your philosophy on coaching?
Sure. I think one of the benefits, having been in independent schools as long as I have seen a few different styles of athletic programs. And I think at this point, when I got to Dunn, it was, we're going to do this the right way, and we're going to make sure that we have successful students who become successful, human beings first. And that's the conversation I have with our coaches. Some of our coaches are teachers here on campus, and some are off-campus coaches. And for me, we need to hire the best quality coach, people who really have either played at a high level or coached at a high level. If there's certificate programs, for example, in soccer, what kind of licenses do they have? And not just maybe somebody who wants to coach. And once they have kind of the athletic side of it, is the conversation is it a good fit for Dunn? Do you understand what whole child education means? You may have someone on your team who's, participating in baseball for the first time, or maybe it's their third year and they're still not going to be a starter, and they're okay with that. They just really like being on the team. You also may have somebody who's getting ready and prepared to play college baseball. So how do you coach both those student athletes? We talk a lot about coaching from the bottom up, meaning, do you know every student's name on your team within a very short period of time? And are you willing to talk to them and work with them and give them as much attention as maybe a beginner as you would maybe the young man or woman who's preparing for college? So it's a wide spectrum. We have kids that go on and play Division I and Division III sports and have great careers. And we have students that just have a wonderful experience being a part of a team. I think there's a lot to learn in terms of being on a team, whether you're, it's your passion or whether it's just an interest or something you want to try. We should be able to do that. The other thing I think we've focused on the last few years is our facilities, is continuing to improve our facilities. We have come a long way. I think we still have a little bit to go, but I'm really happy with the way the school has supported us as we've tried to improve our facilities and continue to step into that highest rank possible in terms of our fields and our indoor spaces. The offerings, we have a variety of offerings. Mike, if you want to maybe bring up those slides if we can real quick, it might be easier for folks to just see them rather than just hear everything we have. So there's the offerings that we have. You can see we have competitive offerings and non-competitive offerings in each season. So everyone at Dunn needs to participate in something each season of the year. So fall, winter, spring. It can be a competitive option or a non-competitive option. It could even be an independent, meaning we have folks here in the Valley who dance at a high level at Los Olivos Dance Gallery, and that can be their exemption, if you will, to go dance during those seasons. But we have many athletes here who play 2 and 3 seasons. Our coaches encourage that. We're a small school. We take advantage of everybody's talents in any way we can. So you'll see a lot of crossover from the different sports through fall, winter, and spring. I think we have a shot of some of the facilities there, Mike. There, it's a great, there's our gymnasium on senior night during basketball with the volleyball court set up. The shot in the lower left-hand corner is a great win. I think we just stole home to beat Dos Pueblos last year or the year before. It was a big win for us. You see the volleyball kids with a great win there. I love the expression of everybody on the background on the bench cheering. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is that team focus where everybody's enjoying the success. I'm happy to take questions, later on, or anytime. You can feel free to email me or give me a call. Happy to answer more specific questions.
Thank you. Maddie B, you are up next here. So Maddie, you live in the dorm. You serve in many leadership positions on campus. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit, maybe to start, why you chose Dunn, some of the leadership opportunities that are at the school, and what it's like to live in a dorm. Maybe if you want to touch on LS, you can touch on that too, but otherwise Kimberly might touch on that. But yeah, if you can share a little bit about those 3 topics.
Yeah. I think I was attracted to Dunn because of learning strategies, because I'm dyslexic and I thought that it would help me academically, but also the experience of going to boarding school and becoming more independent and less codependent of my parents because of that. I've met some of my best friends that I'll have for life because of living in a dorm, because when you live with 50 girls, it's a sleepover every night. And somehow we get to get our homework done and on time and turned in. But it's so much fun. And I love being an RA and kind of being that point person for girls and just getting to hear everyone's different stories, where they're from, what they like to do, and then also seeing them on the sporting courts. I play 3 seasons of competitive sports and I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it. My friends and I just enjoy it so much. And leadership, you could be a leader in a big way or you can be a leader in a small way, but everyone kind of has the opportunity to be a leader. I thoroughly enjoy it. I love our clubs and our committees. And if you don't have a club you want to join, then you can make it your own club. And student government has been so fun for me to be an active member of change and seeing change happen in our school as we evolve. So, yeah.
Great, thank you, Maddie. On to Kimberly. Kimberly, I'd love to hear about your experience from a parent perspective. Can you tell us a little bit about why you and your family chose Dunn School for your sons? What your experience has been like? Did we just lose? I think we just lost Kimberly from the panel. We will wait till Kimberly logs back on here, and Liz, I guess we will skip ahead to you for this until Kimberly's able to get back on. Liz, as a college counselor, college may seem like a long way off for some of our families on the call, but I'd love if you can share a little bit about what the college counseling program looks like at Dunn. Perhaps you can share about your philosophy as a department and what the process looks like for students and their families.
Sure, happy to do that. So Gene actually said something earlier that I kind of want to touch on. He mentioned that the whole shift of this idea from academic excellence to intellectual growth, and that we've come to the realization that it's a process and not so much about the product. And I would say that that really sums up a lot of the work that we do at the end of their Dunn experience. And so it's sort of the culmination of that philosophical overview. So by the time that we really in earnest start to work together in their junior year, we focus on all of those different kind of aspects of what they've learned about themselves and try to then deploy that into how do you translate this into where you want to go after you leave Dunn. So I think if you were to kind of look at how we approach college counseling perhaps differently than other schools, one, it's super highly personalized. We don't subscribe to any particular list of schools, and how that can be sort of analyzed and looked at is last year's graduating class of 36 students attended 33 different institutions in 15 different states. And they applied to approximately 200 uniquely different schools. So every year, every class, it's like a fresh slate, and we really get to know each other. And I try to empower them to understand in a very incremental way what are all the choices that exist for them, and helping them to identify what we call their right fit criteria. So beyond just a ranking or a name of a school, but really getting into more of the weeds of, is this a place that I can see myself thriving academically, socially? What are the things that exist outside of the campus environment that could be additive to my college experience? And trying to get kids to connect with the why behind the decision versus it just being the next phase in their journey. So I love what I do. I love bringing colleges to campus. So as much as my work is internally with students, it's with outreach and developing relationships with our friends on the higher ed side. So every year we have about 100 different colleges that come and visit our school. This year it was done virtually, and students have the opportunity to connect with and understand who the person is that will be reading their application. And I think that's a really powerful component. And the more time that I've spent in this role and I've understood and worked with our particular students, greater emphasis and preparation and support is played and placed on the essay. And so we're going to be spending a great amount of time working on narrative writing and how do you tell your own personal story as part of your application. So that's kind of a quick overview of how we approach it. And I always like to say on tours with Mike that I'm kind of, if you were to describe my role, I'm part matchmaker and I'm part librarian. And so I kind of try to meld those things together to help our students understand what could potentially be a great place for them after they leave us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz. Kimberly, welcome back to the party. You're back. Kimberly, the questions I had for you. So I was hoping that we can hear a little bit about your experience from the parent perspective. Tell us a little bit about why you chose Dunn for your sons, your experience with the school up to this point, and maybe a little about the LS program as well, and maybe how it has been a benefit to your sons.
Sure. So having 4 teenagers in my house, they would have been scandalized that I just dropped off, but I'm back. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we have a senior who is going through the college process with Mrs. Ting, and she's doing a fabulous job. She's been really wonderful, even though there's been so much remote work. Dunn has this fantastic community of teachers and students that really support each other, both student to student and teacher to student. And that's been really great. We have gone through several different schools with our 4 kids. We have found a wonderful community and learning, both learning and personal journey community at Dunn that is really unique to Dunn. We've also looked at other boarding schools, and Dunn has the size and personal kind of mission that works really well for our boys. They've been able to flourish, and both of them are in the LS program to different degrees. Colin, my senior, has had a wonderful support system with Mrs. Vincent, and she's really walked next to him, not just as a tutor and a kind of executive functioning specialist, but also as a really smart and emotionally engaged mom. So that gave us as parents the chance to step back, and instead of being the tutor and the driver and the frustrated parent, it gave us the chance to step back and be the supportive and encouraging parent. And that's been a huge gift, because not only does it help Mrs. Vincent do her job with Colin, it gives him wings to become independent. And it gave us the chance to step back and just be loving and supportive. So that was huge. And that is unique to Dunn. I don't know another school who does it so well. So clearly I'm a huge fan. Paul is a new addition this year, and I'm very excited that he's there because he's absolutely flourishing. Thank you, Tim. He's found an incredible group of friends. He has a wonderful support in his LS group. And yeah, they're both doing really well. As I said, my husband went to Dunn several years ago, and he did great. He also found that independence and flourished. So we are huge fans. That's how we found out about Dunn, through my husband. And I think it's an amazing gift. You know, I don't think Californians are as educated in the boarding school system. And I really see it as a gift we've given our boys to be able to be there and be their own selves and navigate how to manage themselves, both academically and personally. What else? What am I missing, Mike?
I was just thinking in my head how great that was. So I don't think you missed much there.
I'm happy to answer any questions that people can email me or ask in the Q&A. But we're big fans.
Yeah, thank you. And if any of the attendees on the call from a parent perspective, please feel free to send any questions to Kimberly in the Q&A. So we are going to move into the Q&A section of tonight. I have some questions that were sent through during the RSVP process. I also have some questions that are coming through the Q&A right now. The first one I thought maybe can tag team Liz and Jean. I don't know if one of you wants to take this one on or share it. It's about AP courses. And Elizabeth asks, some schools that we are looking at have moved away from the AP program. Can you speak to Dunn's philosophy on AP courses?
Sure. I'll go first, and then Liz, you can talk about this too, because it does have, of course, implications for the college admissions process too. Several years ago, we made the decision not so much to move away from AP courses, but to move toward our own advanced academic curriculum. And so we used to have, I think at one point we taught 12 or 13 different AP courses in our relatively small institution. And that was a point of pride for us. But as one of the former AP teachers, I often recognize that while there's a lot of quality in that AP program, there's also an awful lot of prescription. There's a lot of things that you have to do in order to teach students how to take a test. And depending on the course, sometimes a lot of material that you have to cover just because it's on the test, and it wasn't always what we wanted to cover. And most importantly, it wasn't always what was best for the students that we had in front of us. And it really stymied, at the top levels of our curriculum, stymied our ability to really individualize and tailor our courses to the strengths of our strongest students. And so we made a really conscious effort over a couple of years to transition from teaching those AP courses to designing our own advanced level courses. Now, because we had come from the root of AP, many of our courses, many of the advanced elements of our courses still do harken back to some of what you'll find in the AP curriculum. And in most cases where we have our senior and junior level AP courses, in most cases with a little bit of test prep, those students are then ready to take AP exams in the spring if they choose to. But unlike before, where everyone taking an AP class had to take the AP exam, we feel like we've really liberated ourselves from that. And I mean, zero disrespect to College Board, because they do an amazing job and they have a huge undertaking. And those tests really do have a real value in the American education system. but we felt like we could increase the value for our own students by doing that. Of course, one of the early questions that we faced was, if you don't teach AP courses and all the other schools do teach AP courses, how is my kid ever going to get into college? And so that was where we dragged Liz into the conversation. And so I will hand it off to you so you can answer that question.
It was actually one of the very first things that I was tasked with when I came to Dunn. So we were in the beginning phases of making that transition. And I can unequivocally say that every one of those colleges that I meet with each year, that was the question that I asked them. And it's definitely something among independent schools that is a trend for all the reasons that Jean just mentioned. Colleges look at our advanced curriculum in the same light as they would an AP or an honors level course. And our students aren't disadvantaged in any way, shape, or form. And in any case, they see them as equivalent courses. So from my perspective, it's been a really healthy change. And I see the freedom that it gives our teachers to be able to utilize their strengths and their passions in a different way, and create content that really engages the students that are in front of them, and match the pacing and the needs of any particular group at any particular time. And so I think it's been a real boon for our students and for our teachers too.
Liz, while you're unmuted here, a couple quick questions are coming through for you. The first is, can you talk a little bit about when the college advising process starts? And then also a question about how Dunn prepares students from, our small intimate classrooms of 10 to 12 students to students who might go to larger universities. And how are they prepared to make those transitions, or are they typically matriculating to smaller colleges or universities?
Okay. So the first is everything that I do is open to all students regardless of age. So beginning their freshman year, typically in a typical year, we would be offering a college trip, if not 2, 3, or 4, depending upon the year. So students as young as their freshman year have accompanied me on those trips. Usually we do one larger one to a different region, and then 1 or 2 within California. So just by pure exposure, I think that's a great opportunity for some of our younger students. Also, all of those fall college visits that I mentioned, in addition to daytime visits during the school day, we also do a series of evening programs that are open both to students and parents, as well as the extended community. And I make those events typically mandatory for our juniors and seniors, but again, freshmen and sophomores are more than welcome to attend. We do that intentionally. We really work in earnest in the junior year because we want our freshmen to focus on becoming high school students and really make that transition from being a junior high or middle school student into becoming a high school student and becoming enmeshed in our community. We do provide support as it relates to course selection at the end of the freshman and sophomore year. But in reality, we start working, as Maddie can attest, in the fall of the junior year. We meet about once a week during a period called Period H, where we cover very specific topics related to just sort of vocabulary and exposure to how to look at and research colleges. And then the second half of the junior year, Maddie, we're going to start to see a lot more of each other, where we'll start to work in smaller groups according to free period. And that's where we do personalized interviews, and we start to really work in earnest on the writing and on the development of the college list. And then it goes into the senior year, as Kimberly knows, throughout the summer with meetings as needed with students, and then all the way through to the application process. And then in the spring of the senior year, reviewing offers as they come in and helping kids make sense of those. And one of the things I failed to mention before that I think is also kind of important is that our students are really competitive with themselves. They're not competitive with one another when it comes to this. And every single college acceptance is celebrated. I'm known for my confetti. If you saw it in the video, that's what that symbolizes. And we really are a community that is about making sure that you're making the right choice for you. And then where students are going and how we prepare them. I think our kids are really prepared to be take two things with them. One, they develop relationships with their teachers and they know how to advocate for themselves. So this idea of developing a relationship with an adult and being able to go to that adult to seek help and or just to have an intellectual conversation is something that all of our students take with them to college. And I think they're prepared to then shift that to relationships with professors, whether that's in a liberal arts setting or if that's in a large UC setting. We talk a lot about in the college process how I didn't personally understand the how to use office hours. I thought you only ever had to use those as a time to get help, when in reality, they are there to develop relationships. And so I think our kids leave us with that in spades, that skill. Our students go everywhere. We send the bulk of our applications to colleges on the coasts. Our students tend to like large research universities as much as they like independent liberal arts colleges. And so that number of unique universities, 191, for a class of 36 students, it's pretty significant in that when I talk to my peers at other institutions, they're like, wait, what are you talking about? Because typically they're focused on a more narrow pool. And last year's class, we sent several students to the UCs and we sent several students to Northeastern, and we have kids at women's colleges. We have students in every region in the country, so 15 different states. And in terms of other preparation, I think the other component beyond being able to advocate for themselves and develop relationships with adults, I think our students are really good writers and critical thinkers. And that is going to be something that they're going to definitely rely upon heavily in college and beyond.
Thank you very much, Liz, for that. Maddie B, I'm going to come to you next. I am going to ask you to talk a little bit about what the typical day looks like at Dunn School. So bringing it back to the day-to-day, let's be super optimistic and talk pre-COVID times. Obviously, and I don't want to spend too much time on it today. You can contact me outside of this. Things have had to change this year in order to do what we need to do to be in person. Let's talk about next year and what we hope it would look like. So if you can focus on your sophomore year, a typical day.
Yes. A typical day, I would wake up in my dorm, say probably good morning to my roommate, and then head off to the dining hall to have breakfast. And I think that's probably my favorite thing coming from going to a day school. Breakfast was just kind of a time with my family, but now I get to be with my friends at breakfast. So I would sit usually in a circle table in the dining hall with my friends, and we'd talk about if we had a big essay or a test that day, if we were stressed out, or just like funny memes we saw on the internet. Then I would go to advisory and meet with my advisor and then what I like to call my advisory siblings. And then we would talk about what's going on at school that day or what's going on in the world, current events. You really could talk about anything with your advisor. My advisor, I love her to death. She's like my mom on campus. Then I would go to class, and it really varies from class to class. I could be writing a timed essay in English or history, or doing a lab with Mr. Joyle in biology or chemistry. And it's just a time to be with your friends. Then lunch is probably the main social time, and I get to see my day student friends as well as with my boarding school friends, and also mingle with other classes. So that's always fun to have friends who are seniors or who are sophomores, just to hear what's going on in their day. Then I'd go to sports, which I think is probably my favorite time because it's a time to release from like academic stresses, but also build more bonds with my friends. And it's a different type of bond. We're not just talking about what we're doing in school that day, but we're talking about sports or whatever, and we're playing and having fun and being super carefree. Then I would go to dinner in the dining hall and sit with my friends and chat about something funny that happened in sports or something funny that Miss Heath did in history class. And then probably also my favorite time would be my like free time in the night because it's something that I never had. I'm still at school with all my friends, but I have completely free reign and I can go to the library and or do community service or hang out with my friends. And then especially as an RA and someone on house council, I love being active in the dorms. So seeing every girl's face in the evening and saying good evening and how are you and checking in with everybody, and then going into study hall and doing homework. But it's always fun. There's always something happening in the dorm, and it's never boring at Dunn. It's never boring. There's always something happening. So that would be my normal day.
Awesome, Maddie. I have a follow-up question for you because you mentioned the dining hall. Tell us your opinion of the food here.
I love it. I love it. I like
all
the
do.
vat of avocados and the ability to make avocado toast. I think it's my favorite thing. Um, yeah, no, the food is incredible and don't tell my parents, but it's probably better than their cooking. So I miss it a lot when I'm at home.
Awesome. Thank you. And I wholeheartedly agree. I just wanted people to hear it from the student perspective. Kimberly, I'm going to bounce over to you and ask you, there's a question. Could you describe how your family engages with the school, given the distance? What does the development of a family's relationship with Dunn look like over time? How often do you visit or have the boys at home? If you could just touch on that question, please.
Yeah, so that was obviously our big concern too, by sending them away because they were in traditional high schools or schools in the city with us. So that was the big nervousness is, were we going to see them enough? Were we going to have that engagement that we had? And in truth, we probably have more and better engagement and personal relationship than before because so we see the kids about every 6 weeks, whether it's, we drop them off in late August, then there's Parents Weekend in October, and then there's Thanksgiving, and then there's Christmas, and then so it's about every 6 to 7 weeks, and you official administration people can correct me, but we get to see them. And when they come home generally for a week, not just a 3 or 4 day visit. So it's great quality time. They're not doing homework. They're actually completely present and happy to be home and happy to see you, which is a pleasure. Or we go to their environment and go visit. I mean, Dunn is 4.5 hours away from San Francisco driving. So it's pretty easy and makes for a nice weekend to visit them. So engagement and continuity of family has actually been more qualitative and even better. And they're proud of what they're doing. They're proud of the independence that they have. So they come home with stories and engagement instead of kind of parental challenging times of homework and such. What was the other question?
I think you touched on most of it. I don't,
Okay.
yeah, I think that's great. If there's any more questions about that, please feel free to put it back in the Q&A. But I am going to move on to Jean Vachon. There's a couple questions about learning. Well, there's a question about what LS stands for. It's learning strategies. A couple of questions about how learning strategies works at Dunn School. What the vibe, a little bit about the philosophy of it and how it works. Next, Tim Weir, I'm going to come to you next. If you can talk a little bit about electronics on campus and how that's managed. So we'll start with Jean on the LS.
Sure. So the Learning Strategies program, I believe the current number is about 15% of the upper school student body is enrolled in Learning Strategies. It's a program for students with diagnosed learning differences. But what it really is it's a way for those students to engage with the rest of our curriculum, our whole student curriculum, alongside all of their peers. The mechanics of the program are that each student in Learning Strategies, their advisor is also their Learning Strategies teacher, and those are all learning specialists. And so one of the classes for Learning Strategies students each day is to meet with their learning strategies teacher. And so some of that, in part, that's a tutorial, but the strategies part of it is the part that always fascinates me, and that always I think is the real core of what this is. And the idea is that a learning difference is for most people, and in most cases, a lifelong thing. But it doesn't have to be a lifelong impediment to engaging with education and to learning. And so learning the strategies to either find ways into and to embrace the educational opportunities in spite of a learning difference, or even most exciting, sometimes learning to tap the learning difference in a way that really allows a whole different perspective on learning. I think we see many times that students in the Learning Strategies program, I think there's one of them sitting on the screen right now, often end up being real leaders in our community. I think lots of kids, not talking specifically about Maddie right now, although this may apply, I think in lots of cases, students in other settings might have just kept running into the walls of education, and they wouldn't have allowed them to really take advantage of all the other opportunities that a place like Dunn can offer. And then you look at Maddie, who is a wonderful example of someone who is not only able to work with a learning difference and really navigate the academic program, but really is a leader in our community. And I'm really happy that you're just a junior, because we are so excited to have you doing this next year too. The last thing I want to say about the program is that I think that one of the things that has kept me at Dunn for almost 2 decades now is the idea that different is celebrated, different is good, different is okay. And I think that a lot of that stems from the ethos of the Learning Strategies program, where there's no stigma attached to having a learning difference. It's just part of who you are. And that really expands into just about everything else that we do here. It really is just, difference is okay, difference is good. And really, I mean, we all learn differently. We all have learning differences. Some of them get in the way of doing school, but I think that the program and having those specialists on campus and having those students who thrive in that program allows all the other students and the teachers that are teaching them to really access some ways of learning and some approaches and strategies and individualizing in ways that we might not if we weren't pushed to it, but it really creates incredible amount of access for all students at all levels in all different ways. So I'm going to stop talking. I could keep going forever, but you want to hear from Tim.
Yeah, Tim, so you run a boys dorm here, you're an advisor. There's no sports questions or res life questions coming through, so I thought I'd just keep you on your toes here and ask you about the electronics policy for phones, certain apps. How do students learn to manage online distractions? What's the technology vibe on campus? If you could just speak a little bit to that.
No problem. Happy to. As I'm on my way over to senior dorm, when we get off of this, I'm on duty this evening. The first thing I'll do is walk in and see who's kind of online doing homework, or in this case, studying for exams, and who's gaming. And I will speak to those. I know exactly who they are because you get to know the kids very well, and remind them that they should probably not be gaming during study hall at this time. They should be preparing for their exams. It's a very difficult question. There's no right answer to it. When I was in boarding schools, when internet kind of started and everybody went to the hardwire, and we ruined all these beautiful old New England buildings by drilling holes to put hardwire in. And then as soon as all that was done, we switched to, it's now, just in the air, and you don't even need a hardwire. And we used to be able to turn off the internet at night, and there was no such thing as G anything, much less maybe Kenny G, but nobody else. So now we're up to 5G, and kids can be on all the time if they want. That's the truth. I think what we need to do, what we do well here at Dunn, is explain to them that because we're in an environment where I'm a dorm parent, as Maddie said, in the morning I'll meet all my advisees right after breakfast. They'll go to class maybe with one of my friends, And he may say to me, or she may say to me, the teacher, why is Mike McKee look so tired this morning? What's going on in your dorm at night? Are you making sure that they're going to bed and things like that? And we do. We work really hard to do that. We give the students the opportunity to make those choices for themselves. And what I mean by that is once we start noticing that work isn't getting done, or that they are up, after lights out, or that, they're falling asleep in class, whatever it might be. It's a quick net, right? The drop is pretty short here. We circle the wagons, we figure out what's going on with, the student, and we speak to them. And if it's an electronics addiction, if you will, or somebody who's just very into their phone or texting all night or gaming, then we will remove the computer from the room or take the phone from the child overnight. We do that in conversation with the advisor. We do that in conversation maybe with the parents. There's a lot of, we do this as a team. As Kimberly said perfectly, the pressure's off you as the parent. We have a job to do. And as I tell all the boys in the dorm, I love you all equally, but I enforce the rules the same for everybody. I mean, that's what it is. So if you're not getting your work done, we're going to take it from you overnight. But we give them that chance in the beginning. It's giving them that rope at the beginning to learn that independence that Kimberly talked about. On campus during the academic day, students can have cell phones on them. We ask that they're silenced. We ask that they do not use them unless a teacher may say, you can pull out your phone as an additional resource to check something. We have certain areas on campus where you can speak on the phone and be on your cell phone, and more in the upper academic area, you cannot be on your phone kind of talking, as you're walking from class to class. That's not what it's about. First of all your friends are here. If your parents need to get a hold of you, they can either text you or text the advisor, and we make that work for them. But it's a tricky situation, the electronics and where it's going. And I think as every school manages, we're doing the best we can, and the students figure it out pretty quickly. And again, I think that's because of how close we are as a community. We notice when kids are, not getting their work done, or maybe being distracted by something that we need to control for them.
Perfect. Thank you, Tim. We are down to our last couple minutes. There are still some great questions in the Q&A that we can't get to. I see Amanda is in the chat putting our email address, our phone number, a link to our virtual tour. Please feel free to reach out if we didn't get to your question tonight, but I'm going to hop to the first question that was asked because it's a great one, and I guess I'll direct it to myself and take everyone else off the hook. The question says, what sets Dunn apart from other boarding school experiences in California? Many other schools emphasize similar holistic core values. Is there any simple type phrase that fits? I wish there was, because that would save our marketing department a ton of money. Who wouldn't fit in at Dunn is also part of that question. So it's a great question. You will find that among boarding schools in the West Coast, you will see many more similarities than you will see differences. The differences typically lie in the mission, the ethos, the culture of the school. I always tell families it's very apparent when you walk on a school's campus. Is it a competitive environment where everyone, I say, has sharp elbows, trying to get ahead of each other, trying to knock each other down, trying to be first, trying to compare scores? Or is it this collaborative environment where we're celebrating difference, we're celebrating successes, we're celebrating achievements for each other and feeling good? And Dunn falls very much on the spectrum of the collaboration that you'll feel on our campus. But ultimately, the difference and what makes a school is the teachers and the adults in the community, in addition to the wonderful students. And I'd put our teachers and students up against any school in the country. When you come to our campus, you feel it. It's what drew me to the school 8 years ago when I was applying, and every teacher that I interviewed with was more interesting and more dynamic than the next. It's just this wonderful community, and you feel it right from first stepping on campus. So if there's a phrase that fits, I don't know. Well, I'm sure there's many that fit. Who wouldn't fit at Dunn? So as you've heard tonight, we have some great students, we have some great administrators, some great teachers. We're looking for great kids. People always ask me, describe your typical Dunn kid. And I say, they're really nice kids. And that sounds so silly to say, but that's what we're looking in the admissions. That's what we're looking for in the admissions process. We can work with a wide range of learners so long as they're wonderful to work with, and they need to be motivated to do well. That's the important part. They need to be motivated to do well, nice to work with, and those are the students that will really take off here. It's also the student who looks at everything that we have to offer and says, wow, you guys do so much. I've never done most of these things, but I'm really excited to try. Dunn School, with our small environment, it's a place that it's hard to just step back and let school happen to you. You have a lot of people behind you kind of pushing you forward and saying, like, why not go out for that sport? Why not try that activity? Why not be a part of that club? And that's really a part of the culture here as well. I see I'm running up against my time. I want to be sensitive to everyone, and I could talk on this for hours. I guess I want to end by thanking all of our panelists here. You all did a wonderful job. Thank you for taking time out of your Tuesday evening for being a part of this. I know you really believe in what you do, and I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone who's joined as an attendee. Our admissions process is underway. Someone asked in our RSVP, are we still accepting mid-year applications? Yes, we are. Let us know if you're interested in that. But our application deadline for next year is February 1st. So I'd encourage you to take some time over the holiday to get started on that if you haven't already. Be in touch with any member of the admissions staff if you have questions during that process. We accept both the Dunn School application as well as the common application. We are a test optional school this year. So because of COVID and all the changes that that's brought, if you are unable to take an SSAT or an ISEE, this is a year that that is completely okay with us. So once again, I'll end with a thank you. Wonderful evening. Thank you for all that's been a part of it. And we look forward to talking to you all soon. All right. Bye, everyone.